What's going on, YouTube? Earth Power here with CVH.
How's it going, everybody?
We're here to bring you the final top 8 match in the 2023 Season 1 bracket tournament using the Finnish meta, trying to find the best deck, as Spencer would want us to say. But
Yep.
all of those words apply. Today we have Mana Burn versus Fire Nature Rush.
Let's jump right into the match. And if you haven't seen the deck techs, deck profiles, whatever you want to call them, they're on the channel. 3 to 5 minutes. Give you a quick overview of what's going on in these decks. And this is the final top 8 match. So at the end of this match, we will reveal the top 4 as it stands. So if you haven't seen the other top 8 matches, as soon as this match ends, you'll probably want to dip out of here and go watch those unless you want to get spoiled. But let's jump right on in to this match between me and you, actually, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Those are wrong.
So this was one of the last games I think you and I recorded prior to me leaving that weekend, sometime early January. So, yeah, so Fire Nature Rush, right? I think as we've now grown and kind of learned how the quote unquote meta has evolved for these sets over the course of time, this Fire Nature Rush is literally the same Fire Nature Rush I've been running since 2006 when the game was still alive.
That's crazy.
This deck was so teched for the 60 card plus control decks that were running like 12 to 16 blockers. And
across the table is a control deck that is really popular in the current meta in the IDC tournaments and overseas, and it's modified to fit our 40 card format with Clamp limited and Soul Swap semi limited, but it's kind of like the old decks versus the new. And hey, you're off to a blazing start. There's a Hardy Captain on the board.
So ideally, one of the second best one drops in this slate with this deck setup. So, future iterations of this deck, I think will play cards like Poisonous Mushroom, because that card allows, and yeah, way to go with the first shield trigger.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And you hit the blocker removal. That's great, right?
Yeah.
You hit so. The thing about this deck, at least from past and even up until this very point, is playing Squeedo on 1 tended to put you off of your turn 3 curve, if you will. Rush doesn't really have a curve, but ideally it wants to get to 3 mana because that's when it can start fast attacking. So Squeedo takes you off of that if you play it on turn 1, because ideally you want to start breaking early. Cards that help you get past that while also putting lots of cards on board if you have other 1-drops are cards like Poisonous Mushroom, a card that we just severely overlooked in this version of Fire Nature. So I think future iterations will see that. But all things considered, I still have a pretty amazing start. So
yeah, I had a First Shield Locomotiver, which is one of the best things you can have. But I did miss turn 2 in this deck. Spiral Gate was a thing I could have, and maybe if I had light mana and no spells in the mana, a Belix would have been pretty solid too. This turn I'm looking for light mana plus Juliana or light mana plus Miraculous Snare as the two main things I want to do. Nature Mana Bronze Arm is usually great, but I'm not super looking forward to losing all my shields next turn, so needless to say, if I have nothing, then yeah. So I debate between the Snare, yeah. Just go for the Snare. I don't think I could actually have played Juliana there. Might have done that, but
gotcha. Yeah, if you didn't have the light mana, because I was going to say Juliana's got to be your best play there, right? Because it lets you at least kill the Deadly Fighter, and then without playing, like if you have cards like Snare, then you can swing over Quixotic or swing into Quixotic with a Locomotiver while keeping the blocker ready to go for the next turn. So
yeah, I think I just had to mana it
if you play Juliana.
So it's not but the Pyrofighter draw, actually. Crazy top deck there. I can likely answer the board, but I don't think I can answer the board plus Pyro with any card in my deck. So it looks like the best I can do is simply 1 blocker, 1 trade, and I die to the Pyro in hand. And we're over in record time.
Yeah. How about that? That match took all of, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, but hey, it's only game 1. We're still here, everybody. Fire Nature Rush. I remember saying during this shuffle break, I was like,
that would match is about to be.
Yeah. I remember saying in the shuffle break, I was like, yeah, that went about as how I expected it to go. Like I wouldn't say, I mean, the unluckiness of not having a turn 2 was balanced by the first shield loco, but a Fire Nature Rush on the play just straight up gave it to me. Like, I would have needed a lot more to go in my favor to have a fighting chance in that one.
Yeah, it's Mana Burn has the cards to beat Rush. Rush is still a very relevant thing in the overseas meta. And the Mana Burn deck that we built here kind of uh, mirrors what that meta is over there, and it has the cards to deal with Rush. That being said, it's seeing the cards to deal with Rush is a different story, but
Yeah,
it
and it
does
certainly
have the
doesn't feel super favored. It's not like I have a crazy early
right,
game or 18 shield triggers,
right.
but I
In
do have
theory, I had this was probably Mana Burn's hardest matchup for sure. So, and it
potentially,
showed
yeah.
in game one there. So.
And I do have a light nature mana right out the gate. This keeps Belix live if I just have another creature. Sets up Bronze Arm or Juliana on turn 3. You're snare with the water mana, so good thing to put in mana, even though you'd want to have a Sky Sword later usually in this matchup. It's nice to just get that mana fix early. And you have the Sniper Mosquito. As mentioned, we don't have Poisonous Mushroom in the deck, so even if I hadn't played the Belix, which is amazing for me here, you probably wouldn't be attacking with that Skeeto this turn.
Right.
Kanta's good, though.
Again, I see. Yeah, Ganta on 2 is arguably the strongest play the deck has, um, and this will allow me to at least start swinging this turn, which is nice.
Yeah, but here I am. I get the Bronze Arm on curve into an early turn 5, and I haven't lost shields yet. Just kidding. There we go. Yeah, staring down 2 Gantas now is certainly not very comfortable for this deck. I don't have fire, so therefore I don't have Blizzard of Spears or Mecha Dragon's Breath or anything. And on 5, my plays are actually kind of limited. There's not a ton of removal, and really no wide removal before Miraculous Plague, so Spiral getting a Ganta should buy me a little bit of time, and I just don't have anything to use the last 3 mana on.
Yeah. So I think here, if I don't play the Ganta again, yeah, okay, good. So I
Yeah,
was
that's
gonna
right,
say that
for sure.
has to be the play. Yeah. So next turn, without any blockers, I can just win. I'm, that's the goal here. So,
Yep. Sky Sword
or
comes
at least
down.
break all of your shields. So,
Yeah.
which it looks like should be a possibility here. And here come more 2 and 1 drops.
Yeah.
So
All my
I'm out
shields
of
are
a
dead
hand.
on board.
Yep.
You're out of a hand, but you have 2 Sniper Mosquitoes that can get you back. I think there's a... No, there's no speed attackers down there. It's kind of a weak mana for Sniper Mosquito, but it's okay. You have the
Yeah.
ability to break all my shields if you want, but something dies to Belix. Yeah. I agree. I also think you should break all my shields. I mean, I'd rather you not, but in your shoes, probably a good thing to do. Terrapit's very good.
Yeah. And I think you debate here only if letting me swing with sniper is correct there.
Well, I mean,
Versus
we talk about this. I'm pretty sure I was just doing the math in my head because I definitely have Plague for next turn, and I was always really gonna get the Sniper because I always have to Plague the Gantas. It just makes the most sense because I can't attack over them. So yeah, I was just trying to make sure it was enough to get rid of things. Because now we're doing the potential, like, okay, if you Terrapit this, attack over that, Plague the other 2, what does the board look like, right? And it looks pretty good.
We're playing the yeah, for sure. You and I are just theory crafting because at that point it's obvious that plague is your only out and you need it. So
Yeah, and I've had it for a couple turns, I think. So good on that front. I'm just going to think about my mana a little bit, and Plague is good for this turn, but I still have to figure out what I'm going to do after that, because not losing for one turn is one thing, but winning after that is another thing entirely. So Gantas are the target, and you only have 2 mana, so that's an easy decision. You're on 0 mana. How does that
0
feel?
mana.
Take that, buddy.
Well, it doesn't feel great, but fortunately I could still get pigged to 4,000 power this turn with the 1 drop. So, and I do, and pig comes in. So, and
That's
you
good
hit
too.
spiral gate, and that is what you needed. So
Yeah.
taking me off of secondary creature there, I think is incredibly important.
This is awkward though.
Yeah.
This is awkward. I want to play creatures like, things to eventually win the game with, but I don't really want to leave pig there. So yeah, we're going back in time slightly. I'm still gonna do it. Like I already drew my card too, so I'm like debating, was that actually right? Like I could have done the other thing.
Right. Because if you could tap down or deal with the hardy cat and otherwise. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just gonna be in the tank for this turn for a while. I don't even remember what I eventually do. I have no idea what's in my hand at this point. It was weeks ago, so let's see how Mana Burn deals with this little puzzle.
But again, that spiral gate is so critically important because if I top deck the Comet Missile, you would need to have at least another blocker, which is hard to play if you're going to swing over Quixotics. So
yeah,
spiral gate there very much keeps me off of a win condition the following turn because I am also just not at 1 mana. Shout
Yeah,
outs to Mana Burn.
reminder that this deck, your rush deck does play 4 Comet Missile. That's not a thing that a lot of other rush decks do. So that's something I'm
Sure.
trying to account for.
So, and I sure can Comet Missile that Belix.
Yeah, you can. So I'm looking like I'm playing some creatures. I'm playing Belix to search for memory, and then I'm tapping 7 for the Plague on 1, just to be ultra safe and make sure I'm not dead. And they both go to hand, and I break 2, or I wanted to break 2, but then you hit the first shield Torcon, another card that you're playing, and then I know if you hit another one, I might just die to a Comet Missile. But on this board, there's nothing you can do because you can only play 1 Comet Missile at a time. So yeah, I remember that turn took so long because I was thinking like, what do I do this turn? And if it is starting to attack, can I maintain the disruption of your mana and board long enough to actually win the game? And that's the puzzle to figure out.
You can keep playing 1 card per turn. I can't win because I don't all things considered. If you had hit the second torque on there and I had Comet Missile, that's just a bad beat. But
yeah, that's rough.
Yeah,
that's
I didn't
very
have
unlucky.
it last turn, so yeah.
So this turn, I definitely have, I believe, the memory in my hand. I know after last turn I had a plan, otherwise I wouldn't have just started breaking randomly. Now it escapes me. I don't know what I was planning to do, so let's find out.
A 3-turn kill, right? Because you got memory back, which lets you potentially play memory into Sky Sword, which could be a good play.
Yeah, not bad.
But you need to deal with both creatures on board now. Me having the Torcon on board was not part of the plan. So
well, memory into Sky Sword would still have been pretty good this turn, I think. Yeah. I don't even play the memory. Apparently I got something better. Yeah. Theoretically. This was also a thinker. Something in my hand is a Faliga Dawn Guardian, or a Soul Swap into... Soul Swap the Belix out into the Foul. I remember this play being sexy. Let's get it. Getting the Foul, getting the Plague back, and here we go. Yeah, I like that a lot.
And we have this conversation now.
Yeah, the problem with this is, I would have liked to keep 2 blockers and just Soul Swap out the Bronze Arm Tribe, but if I do that, I can only break 1 shield this turn.
Which still keeps you off of the 2-turn kill,
Yeah, I would have 1 shield this turn and 2 next turn. So I have to get rid of the blocker, do the Plague play, get you mana-less and fieldless, and then I just have to not hit Torcon right here. That's it. Yeah. Yep. I break the 1, and I just have 3 for next turn. I just needed to dodge 1 Torcon once, and you have no way to win.
Right.
So for those of you who don't know what just happened, Carl spread his hand, and then I won the game next turn. We just didn't play it out, because we wanted to make it really confusing to watch.
Right. I showed my hand just to show him that I couldn't find Comet Missile to save my life. Yeah. Was what it was. Couple of just not having Comet Missile at some critical turns there, and Torcon might have won that game. That's wild.
Yeah, it's funny that Torcon and Missile are the 2 cards that you're playing that you see the least of in other Fire Nature Rush decks, and they were the 2 most problematic pain in my asses just now. They were the things if I saw them I lost in combination.
Well, that was because that was the other thing too, is when you were breaking, Comet Missile's a shield trigger too.
Yeah, but then you would need a speed attacker. But yeah.
Right. But yeah, if I could stick a card on board, or if you would hit Torcon into Comet Missile.
But back-to-back plagues against a deck that curves out on 3, turns out still pretty good.
That was 3 turns of treatment.
That's sick. Plague is fun, everybody.
Felt like Mana Burn was really doing its thing there,
Yeah.
As it begins to kind of look like a foul a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it do its thing against Marinomancer in the round of 16, but against Rush, you'd think okay, maybe it's a little too slow for it to make a difference, but Mana Burn still does a thing,
One of those
most of your deck is in turn 1.
Thought just came to mind, and we're out of game 2 now, but there was a turn in there where I swing. Yeah, obviously, I think breaking of the shield is always important. Don't bank on you having 3 miraculous plagues back to back to back. But I had 4 mana when I attacked with. I could have had 4 mana when I attacked with the first Sniper Mosquito, and I wonder if that could have been incorrect, or should have played 4 mana instead of the other 1 and 2.
Here's an interesting turn, because I put Belix in mana, and I think the only way I'd ever do that is if I have another Belix in hand. I get the first shield Loka, which is incredible, discards a pig. But then I play a Belix, and I remember in the moment you were mad at yourself for having played that Deadly Fighter because I telegraphed having another Belix with the first Belix.
Yep.
It's just a weird thing to put in mana on turn 1 unless you have another one in this matchup. You know?
Yep. Yeah, playing the pig there on 2 was just wholly correct, knowing that you telegraphed the Belix. And I think that is the reason why I'm about to have a very, very difficult uphill battle ahead of me. So,
Yeah,
because I
don't
don't have
attack
a
with
hand
this
at this
Mantler.
point, and I'm at 2 mana. So.
Attacking with this Mantler, this just trades it into the Loco while Belix kills Mosquito for free. But I have a Juliana too. This is another, even without the Locomotive or Shield Trigger, this would have been a solid anti-rush curve. With the Locomotive, it's just brutal.
Yep, and I don't have a hand any longer. So, yeah, pig there would have been very, very important. And not having it here basically takes me off of at least 2 shields. And I think that's the over under on what that mana decision was, and not playing it. Granted, I might also still have a hand. So the pressure might be a little bit different since I also had Pyro, but
Yeah.
pig here could have at least gotten in at another shield, potentially 2. Had you just not played a creature and just let Loco trade into it. So
if you're wondering why I'm
some...
playing, sorry, if you're wondering why I'm playing Stream and Pela and Foul in this matchup, is because I have nothing else to do. It's like just bad value plays.
Well,
I can't really affect your board right now.
The old Spiral Gate Loco kills Gonto, which is cute.
Now it does if I have 6 mana, yeah.
Well, you had 6 mana.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking about the turn 4 and turn 5 plays with the
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You were busy deep in the tank about your 2 drops.
Yeah, I think I just gave you the ability in turns 4 and 5 to just do whatever you felt like doing.
Yeah.
Because my board was just not able to get in at your shields because of the blockers. So.
I still would have rather played like, you know, Sky Sword, some sort of ramp or more blockers, but like, I just had a stream and literally nothing else that was playable. So that's where we were. Now I'm ramping, bronze arming, I'm snaring, because I'm still kind of scared. Like, I don't want to lose all my shields, and I'm, you know, I have a pretty reasonable board though, so I can start thinking about whether or not I actually want to turn up the heat. And it depends on what my last card is. Is it a plague?
The question mark there is why snare the mosquito versus the pig?
Well, so my thought in the moment was I didn't want to give you more things to play, but I do think pig was probably right. But I also think it probably shouldn't matter if my next card is plague, which I think it is. Or maybe it's just shell.
It's just shell, yeah.
Yeah, so I do wind up having to bounce, yeah. So if you had played the mosquito, I would have had a favorable trade and you'd be on 0 mana. So yeah,
but now you with 2 shields, you have to hit 2 Torcons here, and if you hit 1, you stop.
I do hit 1. You're just king of Torcons. Torcon the Great even.
So now I need Comet Missile and Fire mana, and you know I don't, unless you gave it to me in shields, I have to top deck the Comet Missile. So, you know, that's the game. And there they are.
There are the missiles. So yeah, yet again, Carl has a very specific out in Comet Missile and Fire mana, and wasn't able to put it together before I was able to 2-turn. And that's the game.
Yeah, that's the game. Mana Burn takes it 2-1.
Updating the bracket. If you haven't seen the other top 8 matches, don't look. Cover your eyes and your ears. Yeah.
Get ready.
There we go.
So shout outs to our top 4, man. I'm not looking at it.
Oh, you want me to you want me to shout it out? Okay. We have Foul Control versus Hydrus in the top half, and then Phantomac versus Mana Burn in the bottom half. This was a wacky top 4, just compared to, I guess, how we thought. And I don't know if you want to take a couple minutes at the end of this match, since it's finally all fleshed out, to talk about what it means.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, not what it means, but I do want to get final thoughts on this match, if that's what you were just referring to.
Well, the match and like the top 4 looking the way it does, I'm down.
Oh yeah, we can definitely talk about that here in a minute. But final thoughts on Mana Burn versus Fire Nature Rush. I'll go first with Fire Nature. Yeah, you know, it's weird because we've talked about Fire Nature Rush now in the deck profile, which is linked below. In its match against Survivors, which it just wholly had just a good matchup. It didn't matter what the cards were, like, and you could tell like some of the attack ordering was just way off in that Survivors match, and it just didn't matter because 1, 2, 3 just it was something Survivors couldn't really deal with. But then in this matchup, it was odd because the cards that like CVH mentioned earlier in the match, that are the flex spots, which are kind of Comet Missile, Rickabout Screwdriver, Torcon. While Screwdriver didn't really matter, Torcon and Comet Missile kind of gave the deck its only potential outs in this matchup, which was very interesting because those are the cards that I think in the future, as we continue to iterate on Fire Nature, I think those are the cards that get cut. Maybe not Comet Missile wholly, but I think the number, like I don't know that the deck plays 4 in the future. So,
Yeah.
I don't see any egregious misplays, at least in that matchup, minus in game 3, like him telegraphing the Belix. I should have just slammed the Quixotic, and that probably would have mattered as we gotten closer to the end of that game if I could have taken 2 more shields. But yeah, that's just kind of the way it goes. I kind of went for the wide play and just banking on, for whatever reason, thinking that he just needed to play white mana for no reason at all. So, and that was just a bad read on my part.
Yeah, mana burn did its thing. I would not ever pretend that it's a favorable matchup. I just think it's winnable. Usually, it's probably losing, by a few percentage points at least. Even in game 2, I had the good curve. I was on the play. I had some like 2 shield triggers, I think, both of which were really impactful. Game 3, I got the shield 1 locomotiver, and even though I was on the draw, I still had a 2 and a 3. And coupled with the turn 1 shield trigger, that's probably enough to usually swing that in your favor. So yeah, a lot had to go right. Luck is definitely a part of it. It doesn't run those shield triggers for nothing, but like, yeah, it's hard to imagine ever winning that match if you have 0 shield triggers down. It's just like, curve can only go so far. And the version of this deck that I played in this 40 card, not saying it's going to be how it is always, but I only played 2 Belix, 2 Juliana, so it's like, good luck drawing them. It's like 5 turn 2 plays with Belix and Gate, so.
Yeah, and all things he did see Belix in both matches, or in 2 of the games on 2,
the 2 that I won.
Yeah,
Surprise.
yeah. How about it? Just kind of matters.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool. And I think that takes us to what you were mentioning earlier, taking us into top 4. Val versus Hydrus. I'll start there. This is Hydrus's 3rd control deck now, albeit or I guess, with all that being said, Foul is probably the more equipped control for a deck like Hydra's, being able to kind of play to Hydra's speed early, because it has a lot of the more of the early turn removal in Crimson Hammer and the toolbox necessary with the wide removal to deal with it, and then Soul Swap can just matter a lot, if Hydra's comes down early. So, I think Foul has a favorable matchup, or at least more favorable than the other 2 rub decks do. And Hydrus, I think it just sticks. The nice thing about Hydrus and tempo in general is that it just kind of does its game plan regardless of the matchup, if that makes sense. And it just tries to tempo out. And I think if it can do that, it'll definitely give Foul a hard time. But I do think Foul has the cards necessary to deal with that, even in a best case scenario from Hydrus.
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, the matchups are getting a little harder for Hydrus as it goes. Like the classic rub was the easiest. Declotans put up a fight and had to get pretty lucky for Hydrus. And then Foul, I still think if I'm Hydrus, I want to face all the control decks. So it's like pretty interesting that Hydrus is actually able to face all the control decks. And we'll see how that goes, especially if like Phantomac versus Mana Burn. That'll be interesting because these are the 2 decks that I think combined we had the least experience with going into the bracket. Maybe Pegasus was down there too as decks that we didn't really play, but like Phantomac I was just a proponent of. I was like, I played some games with it, so I'm a fan. And then Mana Burn we all added last minute, so it's kind of funny that they're just crushing. What did they crush so far? They crushed combined, they beat Deck Out, Fire Nature, Rush, Foe, Bombazar, Survivors, like all these decks that we'd played more of.
Yeah.
Or not Survivors, but I mean like Marino lost to them. Like, yeah, that's crazy. He's just taking names.
And maybe that's just like, take a page out of, maybe a single elimination bracket isn't a great way to showcase decks, but sometimes crazy things happen, and your bottom seed decks make it into the top 4, and that's definitely the case here.
Yeah,
and
it is entertaining if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure. And both the decks, I mean, I think you and I both knew when we added, and again, Mana Burn at rank 14. Mana Burn was the only deck in this Like I know we seeded them all, but Mana Burn was the only one that never really got a chance to get voted on coming into this. So we never really had a conversation outside of Christian and me realizing like, oh, this is a really relevant deck. We should put it in here. And I think we ended up scrapping one of the rush decks for it because we had 3 rush decks in the bracket at the time. And Mana Burn kind of slid into that spot. So it's not, I mean, it's unofficially it's seed 14, but I think if we went back and re-ranked it, especially now, seeing how it's done, I think it gets ranked a little bit higher.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely probably a top 5 deck for me. Yeah, it's up there, and I think it makes sense that it's in top 4. Although I do think, Fire Nature Rush could have easily beaten it, but hey, glad it didn't because I was playing the other deck.
Yeah.
But that's the top 4. I'm excited about it. We've got a control represented in like 2 decks basically. Both of the 4-color decks made top 4, kind of interesting thing. And the other 2 decks are evolution based, so it's nice to see evolution's doing well. Tempo and mid-range strats represented. Yeah.
Yeah, stay tuned. Early next week, we will post our first top 4 match, Foul versus Hydras. That will be on the way. And then following that will be the other top 4 match, Mana Burn versus Phantomac. So stay on the lookout for those coming sometime next week. In between all of these, I think CVH and I are going to get together and put together a season 2 preview, if you will. Obviously, we've had a lot of fun with this bracket so far, and for those of you who are still around at the end of this match, a little bit of insight for you into what we're planning. A season 2 bracket tournament, 16 decks. Some from this one that you guys have enjoyed seeing so far, and some new ones. And we'll put together a season 2, hopefully now with a little bit more experience. And now that I think we've got our what do you call it? Our
DM legs.
Our legs back under us. Thank you. I think season 2 should shape out to be a much better show with hopefully a little less mistakes and the kind of catches that CVH and I have been making kind of throughout this tournament.
Speak for yourself. I'm going to play terribly.
I don't know. I'm still losing sleep over the just dropping of a game versus Declatans with that Firewater Rush. But who knows? Maybe it'll get its chance again in season 2. So stay on the lookout for that. We'll put another podcasty video together for you to showcase kind of what we've been working on since the start of this and kind of where we've landed with the future of the next top 16 that we do another season 2 bracket tournament with.
Yeah, but if you're still here, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this match and who's going to win. What's going to be the final shakeout of the top 4? Let us know.
Yeah, for sure. Let us know. I think in the future video too, stay tuned. I will have some giveaway potential. I haven't talked to CVH, so this should be a surprise for him as well.
Yeah, good luck with that.
So I've got some giveaway stuff that I'm planning on doing here in the channel, just for you guys being awesome and getting me over 2,000 subscribers, which I haven't mentioned up until this point, but I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking through it all. Thanks for all of the engagement. We've really been enjoying it, and hope to bring you guys some more, a lot more content, not only the top 4 and finals of this tournament, but hopefully some more matches and a season 2 coming soon. So stay on the lookout for all that news and the top 4 coming at you next week. Until next time, it's been a lot of fun. We'll see you guys next time.
Each.